The University of Southampton studied 2,060 cardiac arrest patients, people who were clinically dead, no heartbeat, no measurable brain activity. 40% reported awareness during that time, not foggy, not dreamlike, crystal clear. Many described verified details from the operating room, conversations they overheard, procedures they witnessed, objects they couldn't have seen. If consciousness is just neurons firing, then that's impossible. See, I've always been curious of the afterlife and what happens when we die. And 10 years ago, I picked up a book that sent me down a rabbit hole. It was called Many Lives, Many Masters by Dr. Brian Weiss. Now, if you've read this book, give me a heart. After reading this, I started to consume everything on near-death experiences, reincarnation research, children recalling past lives. And as someone who's spent over 20 years in IT, working with education and for companies like Dell Technologies, HPE, and now Dynatrace, solving problems, seeing patterns others miss, I started seeing something nobody was talking about. See, I don't think the human brain works the way most people think it does. I believe it works closely to the smartphone in your pocket. I'm Steve Mancini. This is a Distributed Mind podcast. And by the end of this episode, you're going to understand why your brain might be the interface and not the storage device. And if you enjoy this kind of conversation, give me a like and subscribe to the channel as we are going to have some fun exploring consciousness. So let's dig in. Now, look at your smartphone. Inside this device, you've got specialized processors, one for apps, one for graphics, one for facial recognition, one for encryption, each optimized for specific tasks, all working together to create your experience. Your phone stores information locally, recent photos, frequently used apps, but your entire photo library, your documents, messages from 3 years ago, that lives in the cloud. Whether that's iCloud, Google Drive, or somewhere else. If you lose your phone, you simply grab a new one. You sign in, and everything comes back. Because the data was never in the device. The device is just the interface. Your brain has specialized regions too. The visual cortex for sight, the hippocampus for memory, the prefrontal cortex for decisions, each optimized for navigating physical reality. But here's the question nobody's asking. Just because your phone processes information, does it generate that information? No. You don't create your email inside your phone. You access it through your phone. So, what if your brain is the edge device and consciousness is connected to the cloud? Think about sleep for a minute. Every night, your brain consolidates memories, integrates experiences. That's why dreams feel strange. You're in a synchronization process, uploading the day. You ever wake up with an insight you didn't have before? Or a gut feeling that turns out to be right? How about an answered prayer? Do you think it's possible that was enabled by a connection to the superconscious, the ultimate cloud storage? This framework isn't just a metaphor. It explains data that the current model can't touch. Let me show you how. What if the brain is an interface, a connection? When we are born, our soul and our brain merge to become one. From what I understand, this process can take as long as the first 6 years of your life, which helps explain children remembering past lives. Now, In order for us to achieve spiritual growth, we need to be separated from our superconscious self. So something in our brain creates an amnesia effect, blocking out our past lives and our universal consciousness. This way, we experience our trials and tribulations without outside interference, allowing us to grow and learn from our experiences here. When your brain goes offline, you don't lose consciousness, you lose the limitation, and now you have access to super consciousness. That's why some describe NDEs as more real than real. It also explains why the use of psychedelic drugs or meditation can open your eyes to so much more, as you are bypassing the filter. So, as I researched this theory, the same patterns and connections kept me going. Let me introduce you to some of the areas that we'll be exploring in future episodes. 3 researchers, 3 different angles, same patterns. First, Dr. Jeffrey Long. I mentioned the Southampton Study. Dr. Jeffrey Long has taken this further. Over 4,000 documented near-death experiences, all recorded on the nderf.org website. The pattern is consistent. People with zero brain activity reporting consciousness that's more vivid than waking life. They observe verifiable details from the room. They come back completely transformed. Under the current model, our brain creates consciousness. So if the brain is clinically dead, consciousness ends. But that's not what happens. Then we have Dr. Ian Stevenson. Dr. Stevenson spent 40 years at the University of Virginia documenting children who remember past lives. These aren't vague impressions. We're talking about names, addresses, how they died, family members they've never met. Over 2,500 verified cases. His successor, Dr. Jim Tucker, continues the work. And remember the phone analogy? Lose the device, get a new one, sign in, your data transfers, new hardware, same information. Children remembering past lives, especially traumatic deaths, might be exactly that. As the soul and the mind merge, there is some bleed over, fragments of the old session bleeding into the new brain hardware. Wait until we get into details of this. It's absolutely fascinating. And finally, we have Dr. Michael Newton. Dr. Newton conducted 7,000 deep regression sessions, not to past lives, but to the space between lives. Access thousands of unrelated clients. The reports were remarkably consistent. After death, consciousness returns to a non-physical realm. Souls exist in groups that incarnate together in different configurations. There are planning sessions before each life, and challenges are chosen for growth. Now, some of this will be controversial. When you learn that the life you are living right now was chosen by you, with all of the challenges, the people you have lost, the turmoil, the sadness, those are all part of the story that you chose, and we will explore this deeply. So is all of this proof? No. But when 3 independent research domains, near-death experiences, reincarnation cases, regression therapy, all point to the same structure, that's a pattern worth investigating. See, we're at a turning point. AI is forcing us to define what consciousness actually is. We're building systems that mimic thought. And suddenly the question matters. Is awareness just computation, or is there something else going on? Quantum mechanics broke determinism decades ago, but we're only now grappling with what that means for the brain. And near-death research is piling up data that the materialist models simply cannot explain. The old answer, consciousness is just neurons firing, it doesn't hold up anymore. The data doesn't fit. That's what this channel is about. Not feel-good spirituality, evidence, the patterns, a framework that actually explains the anomalies. So what's coming? Future episodes go deeper. Newton's afterlife architecture. What 7,000 sessions reveal about the structure on the other side. Stevenson's strongest cases. Children with birthmarks matching fatal wounds from verified past lives. Dr. Long's 9 lines of evidence for consciousness after death. Edgar Casey and what trans-state information access tells us. And what ghosts tell us about consciousness. And finally, AI convergence, why the systems we're building actually mirror this architecture. And look, I was raised a Catholic. I read the Bible, but the pieces never fit for me. If a baby dies unbaptized, do they go to hell? Or maybe you're a little bit more lenient. Do they get to skip the whole experience and go straight to heaven? See, neither of those things made sense to me. This framework finally connected the dots for me, not because it's comforting, because it's coherent and it explains the data. You are not your brain. When your body dies, you don't disappear. You're connected to something much bigger, much deeper. So, if this episode connected for you, subscribe. If you've had experiences that don't fit the model, near death, precognitive dreams, gut feelings that saved you, drop them in the comments. We're all data points in this investigation. In the next episode, we'll explore Michael Newton's Life Between Lives. What happens when you die? Where do you go? And why do thousands of unrelated people describe the same place? So, friends, thanks for being here and welcome to the Distributed Mind. See you next time. I can't wait to dig in.